you, bird. Let's lock that up so you don't leave. And I think putting you out in the rain is a bad idea. Actually, I should start cooking now. Take care. Okay. See you in a bit then. Let's put the butt of that animal in there. Let's get you and you. I'll just put you in there just because. And let's do some smithing as the last thing of the day. With some tree chopping, probably. Oh, I love the efficiency of this axe. It's so good. Ah, much cleaner. Let's see what we just did. More coal. That's always good. Oh, artichokes. Those were artichokes? Okay. Interesting. You know, I've got a ton of mixed seeds. I could probably do those. There we go. Okay. Okay. And now we just wait. Random question, does Grandpa give you a hard time if you don't get married? I don't think he does. I think you still get the points and such. Oh. Wait, why is it, like, being so weird for the time? Okay, let's see what we get.
Did that wrong, but hello everybody, hello. Good to see you all. Welcome to the stream. Now let's see. Yeah, looks like everything's working properly. That's good. So I guess I can kind of get started. Just give me a second to clear my throat. Should have taken one of those throat thingies, but here we are. I think it'll be okay though. Probably. Probably. Okay. There are times when you might just have to miss a night's sleep, but Pork never really slept. It never did more than doze, and would wake up around 3 a.m. for a glass of water. You could buy anything in the middle of the night. Timber? No problem. Always wonder whether there's vampire carpenters quietly making vampire chairs. Canvas? There's bound to be someone who said you'd wake up in the wee small hours for a wee and drink, and think, what I could really do right now is 1,000 square yards of medium grade canvas, and down by the docks there are channelers open and deal with the rush. Oh, welcome, 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 welcome. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Thank you for coming. And thank you very much, Sensei, for bringing them all here. And I really appreciate it. Yes, Luffy Fluff Raid. I was anticipating that, so I guess I'll start over. Let's see. There are times when you just have to miss a night's sleep. I think McCork never really slept. The city never did more than doze and would wake up around 3 a.m. for a glass of water. You could buy anything in the middle of the night. Timber? No problem. I'm always wondering whether there are vampire carpenters quietly making vampire chairs. Canvas? There's bound to be someone to say you'd wake up in the wee small hours and think, what I could really do with right now is 1,000 square yards of medium grade canvas, and down by the docks, there are channelers open to deal with the rush. There's a steady drizzle as they left for the tower. Moist drove the cart while others sitting on a low behind them were bickering over trigonometry. Moist trying to listen, he got lost and math started getting silly. Killing the Grand Trunk. Oh, the towers be left standing, but it'd take months to repair them all. It'd bring the company down. No one get hurt, the news said. They meant the men in the towers. The trunk had become a monster, eating people. Bringing it down was a beguiling idea. They were full of ideas for what to replace it. Cheaper, faster, easier, streamlined, using imps specially bred for the job. But something irked Moist. Glit had been right, damn him. If you wanted to get a message 500 miles very fast, the trunk was the way to do it. If you wanted to wrap it in a ribbon, you needed the post office. He liked the new. They thought in a refreshing way. Whatever curse hung around the stones of the old tower surely couldn't affect the minds like theirs, because they were inoculating its madness by being a little bit crazy all the time. The clock signalers all in the trunk were a different kind of people. They didn't just do their job, they lived it. But Moist kept thinking of all the bad things that could happen at the semaphore. Oh, they used to happen before the semaphore, of course, but it wasn't the same thing at all. He left them sawing and hammering in a stone tower and headed back to the city, deep in thought. And it turns out that was the end of the chapter, so I really could have finished it last time. Ah well. Excuse me. Chapter 13, The Edge of the Envelope, in which we learn a theory of base space, I think it's how you say that, base, devious collarbone, the grand trunk burns, so sharp you'll cut yourself, finding his dear heart, Igor moveth on, a theory of disguise, let this moment never end, a brush with the trunk, the big sail unfurls, and the message is received. I think we're nearing the end now. Might not need to continue Friday even, but we'll see. Mushroom Ridically, Arch-Chancellor of Unseen University, leveled his cue and took care of a lame. The white ball hit a red ball, which rolled gently into a pocket. This is hard to look because more than half the snooker table served as his filing system, and indeed to get the hole, the ball had to pass through several piles of paperwork, a tankard, a skull, and a dribbly candle, and a lot of pipe ash. It did so. Well done, Mr. Stibbins, said Ridically. I call it Bayes space, said Ponder Stibbins proudly. Every organization needs at least one person who knows what's going on and why it's happening and who's doing it, and at the UU, this role is filled by Stibbins, who often wished it wasn't. Our nice president's position as head of the inadvisably applied magic, and his long-term purpose to his department budget went through on the nod. To this end, therefore, upon a bundle of thick pipes left from under his heavy old billiard table after a hole in the wall and across the lawn, and the high-energy magic building, where, he sighed, this little trick was taking up 40% of the room time of Hex, the university's thinking engine. Good name, Ridically said, lining up another shot. As in phase space, Ponder said hopefully. When the ball is just about to enter an obstacle, it's not another ball, you see. Hex moves into a theoretical parallel dimension where it's a non-occupied flat space, and to maintain speed and drag until it can be brought back into this one. What's really the most difficult and interesting part of this is, yes, very good, said Ridically. Was there something else, Mr. Stibbins? Ponder looked at his clipboard. There's a polite letter from Lord Van Nuys on behalf of the city where the university might consider including its intake, 25% of its less able students, sir. He potted the blackboard heap of university directives. Can't have a bunch of grocers and butchers telling university how to run and sell stibbins, he said firmly, lying on red. Thank them for their interest and tell them we'll continue to take 100% of complete number of dollars, as usual. Take them in dull, turn out sparkle, and it's always been the way. Anything else? Just this message for a big race tonight, Chancellor. Oh, yes, that. What should I do, Mr. Stibbins? Here's a heavy betting on the post office. Yes, Arch Chancellor. People saying the gods are on the side of Mr. Lipwig. Are they betting? Said Ridley, watching satisfaction as the ball rematerialized on the side of his neglected ham sandwich. I don't think so, sir. We can't possibly win. He's the fellow who rescued the cat? That was him, sir, yes. Good chap. What do we think of the Iran trunk? A bunch of bean crushers, I heard, have been killing people on the tower of theirs. Man Pope told me he heard a ghost of dead signal was hot in the trunk. I'll try for a pink. Yes, I heard that, sir. I think it's an urban myth. I traveled one in the trunk of the air, he said. Not a bad way to spend eternity, mark you. There's some splendid scenery up in the mountains. He paused and his big face screwed up in thought. Harpeck's Directory of Varying Dimensions, said at last. Pardon, Arch Chancellor? That was the message. No one said it had to be a letter, eh? He waved a hand over the tip of the coup, which grew up powdering of fresh chalk. Give a copy of the new edition. Send to our man in Guina. What's his name? A Thingummy. Got a funny name. Show him the old Alma Pater a thinking of him. Is thinking of him. That's Devious H. Collarbone, sir. He's been studying oyster communications in low intensity magical field for his bead thou. Good gods, can they communicate? Apparently, Arch Chancellor, though thus far they're refusing to talk to him. Why did we send him all the way out there? Devious Collarbone, Arch Chancellor? Remember with the terrible halitosis? Oh, you mean Dragon Breath Collarbone, the one who could blow a hole in a silver plate. Yes, Arch Chancellor, said Ponder patiently. He always liked to always like to triangulate on new information from several positions. He set out in the swamps, no one would notice. If you remember, we allowed him to take a small omniscope. Did we? Far thinking of us. Call him up right now and tell him what's going on, would you? Yes, Arch Chancellor. In fact, I'll leave in a few hours, but it's still nighttime in Lena. That's only their opinion, said Rayleigh, citing him. Do it now, man. Fire from the sky. Everyone knew the top half of the tower was rocked as the messages flew around the trunk. One day someone was going to do something about it, and all the old signalers knew that the connecting rod operated shutters on the down line was pushed to open them at the same blink as the connecting rod on the up line. The tower lurched. It was being pushed from one side and pulled from the other, which would have been roughly the same thing as a column of marching soldiers would have on a bridge. There wasn't too much of a problem unless it happened again and again, so the rocking had built to a dangerous level. But how often would that happen? Every time the woodpecker arrived at your tower, that was how often. It was like an illness could only attack the weak and sick. It wouldn't have attacked the old trunk because it's too full of tower cabins to shut down instantly and stripped of fitting messages out of a drum. Secure and knowledge reactions would be judged by superiors who knew how the tower worked and would have done the same thing themselves. It would work against the new trunk, but have enough captains now. You did what you were told, or you didn't get paid, and if things went wrong, it wasn't your problem. It was the fault of whatever idiot accepted this message for sending in the first place. No one cared about you, and everyone at headquarters was an idiot. It wasn't much your fault, no one listened to you. Headquarters even started an employee of the month scheme to show how much they cared. That was how much they didn't care. And today you're told to shift code as fast as possible, and you didn't want to be the one accused of slowing things down, so you just watched the next tower in line till your eyes watered and you hit keys like a man tap dancing on hot rocks. So one after another, the towers failed. Some burned when share boxes broke free and smashed their cabin roof, spilling blazing oil. There was a fighting fire in a wooden box 60 feet in the air. You slid down the suicide line and legged it to a safe distance to watch the show. 14 towers are burning for when someone took their hands off the keys. And then what? You have given the orders. There will be no messages on the trunk while the message is being sent. What'd you do next? Moist awoke to a grand trunk burning in his head. The smoking knew went to break it down and pick up the pieces, and he could see why. But it wouldn't work. Somewhere in the line was going to be one inconvenient engineer who risked his job to send a message ahead saying it's a killer, shifted slowly, and that'd be that. Oh, it might take a day or two for them to get to Guina, but they had weeks to work with, and someone else would too. It'd be smart to compare the message with what had been sent by the first tower. And Clint would wiggle out of it. No, he'd storm out of it. The message had been tampered with, he'd say, and he'd be right. There had to be another solution. The new were onto something, though. Changing the message was the answer if one could do it the right way. Moist awoke. He was at his desk and someone put a pillow under his head. When was the last time he slept in a decent bed? Oh, right, the night Mr. Puppet caught him. He spent a couple hours on a rented bed that had a mattress didn't actually move and wasn't full of rocks. Bliss. His immediate past life scanned before his eyes, and he groaned. Good evening, Mr. Lipwig, said Miss Front by a corner. Your razor is sharp, the kettle is hot, and I'm sure a cup of tea is on the way. What time is it? Noon, Mr. Lipwig. You did not get up until dawn. He groaned again. 6 hours to the race, and so many pigeons had come home to roost to be like an eclipse. There is much excitement, says Mushay. It's been agreed to start on being Saturn Square. He said to reflection, barely listening. He always raised the stakes automatically. Never promised to do the possible. Anyone can do the possible. You should promise to do the impossible, because sometimes it was possible if you could find the right way. At least you could often extend the limits of possible. And if you failed, well, I guess it was impossible. But he'd gone too far this time. Oh, it was no great shame to admit that coach and horses couldn't travel 1,000 miles an hour, but Glit was short around it, and the post office remained just a little old-fashioned thing behind the times, small and able to compete. He'd find some way to hold on to the Grand Trunk, cutting even more corners, killing people that agreed. Are you alright, Mr. Lipwig? Said the girl behind him. He stared into his own eyes and flickered in those depths. Oh boy, you've cut yourself, Mr. Lipwig, said Mr. Pump. Mr. Lipwig? Shame I missed my throat, Moist thought. Ugh. And that was a secondary thought, edging past the big dark one unfolding now. Look into the abyss and you'll see something growing, reaching toward the light. It whispered, Do this. This will work. Trust me. Oh boy, it's a plan that'll work, Moist thought. It's simple and deadly, like a razor, but it'd need an unprincipled man to even think about it. No problem there, then. I'll kill you, Mr. Glit. I'll kill you in our special way, the way of the weasel and cheat and liar. I'll take away everything but your life. I'll take away your money, your reputation, and your friends. I'll spend words right into your cocoon in them. I'll leave you nothing, not even hope. He carefully finished shaving, wiped a remnant of foam from his chin. This is not in truth much blood. I think I do it a hearty breakfast with Pump, and now a few things to do. In the meantime, could you find me a broomstick, a proper birch besom, and then paint some stars on the handle? Oh, well, he's scheming for sure. The makeshift counters were crowded when Moist came down with the bustle stopping near the hall. There's a cheer went up. He nodded and waved and immediately surrounded by people waving envelopes. He did his best to sign them all. A lot of extra mail for Gwyneth, sir, Mr. Groat exulted, pushing through your gout. Never seen a day like it. Never. Jolly good. Well done, Moist murmured. And the mail for the gods has gone straight up, too. Pleased to hear it, Mr. Groat. We got the first Stoat stamps, sir, said Stanley, waving a sheet of stamps over his head. The early sheets are covered in flaws, sir. I'm very happy for you, said Moist, but I gotta go and prepare things. Ah, yes, a few things. Anticipate, sir. Stand aside, please. Postmaster coming through. Groat more or less pushed customers out of the way as Moist tried, trying to avoid people who wanted to kiss babies or try to grab a scrap of soup for luck and move out of the fresh air. They kept to the back streets, finding a place that did a very reasonable double sausage, egg, bacon, and fried slice, and hoped that food could replace sleep. It was all getting out of hand. People were putting bunting and setting stalls in Saturn Square. The huge flowing crowd had been there was a street population, and a port ebbed and flowed around the city, so he would contract to form a mob in the square and would be sold things. Sorry if you hear a noise, I accidentally hit my lamp. And if you hear other noises, that's just my back scratcher. Anyway, finally plucked up his courage and headed for the Golem Trust. It was closed. A bit more graffiti and added a strata now covered the board of window. It was just above knee level and said in crayon, Golems are made of poo. It was good to see the final traditions of idiot bigotry being handed out in a not all good kind of way. Dolly's, I thought wildly, staying with an ant. Did you ever mention the ant's name? He ran that direction. Dolly's, this is once when the village was sprawled, rolled all over it. The residents are still considered themselves apart from the rest of their own customs, and almost their own language. Moist didn't know it at all. He pushed his way through narrow lanes, looking around desperately for what, a column of smoke? Actually, that wasn't a bad idea. He reached the house 8 minutes later and hammered on the door. To his relief, she opened and stared at him. She said, How? Tobacconist. Not many women I hear of 100 a day have it. Well, what do you want, Mr. Clever? If you can help me, I'll take the lid for everything he's got. Help me, please. My honor is a totally untrustworthy man. I got a brief smile, replaced on his meal by a default expression of deep suspicion. Then some inner struggle resolved itself. You'd better come to the parlor, she said, opening the door all the way. That room was small, dark, and crowded with respectability. He sat on the edge of the door, trying to disturb anything, while he strained to hear women's voices on the hallway. Then Miss D'Art slipped in and shut the door behind her. Hope it's all right with your family. I told them we were courting, said Miss D'Art. That's what Paula was for. The tears of joy and hope in my mother's eyes were a sight to see. Now, what do you want? Tell me about your father. I gotta know how the Grand Trunk is taken over. He's doing any paperwork? It won't do any good. A lawyer looked at him and said it'd be very hard to make a case. I intend to appeal to a higher court. I mean, we can't prove a lot of things, not actually prove. I don't have to. This said take months and months of work, she said, trying to find a snack. I'll make someone pay for it. Have you got books, ledgers, anything? What do you intend to do? It'd be better if you don't know. It really is. What I'm doing, I know what I'm doing, Spike, but you shouldn't. Well, there's a big box of papers. I suppose I could sort of leave it here while I'm tidying up. Good, but can I trust you on this? Gods, no. Your father trusted Glit, and look what happened. I wouldn't trust me if I was you, but I would if I was me. The funny thing is, Mr. Lindway, I find myself trusting you all the more when you tell me how untrustworthy you are. He sighed. I know, Spike. French it, isn't it? It's a people thing. Could you fetch the box, please? She did so with a puzzled frown. It took a lot of noon, even then Moist was sure he filled a small notebook with scribbles. It was like looking for piranhas in a river choked with weeds. There were a lot of bones at the bottom. Although sometimes you thought you glimpsed a flash of silver near the white sea of fish. The only way to be sure was to jump in. 4:30, Saturn Square was packed. The wonderful thing about the golden suit and the wings on is that when Moist took him off, he wasn't him anymore. He was just a person in memorable clothes and a face you might vaguely think you've seen before. He went through the crowd heading to the post office. No one gave him a second glance. He didn't bother the first glance. Or rather, most didn't. In a way, he never was, so now he was alone. He'd always been alone. It was the only way to be safe. The trouble was he missed the golden suit. Everything was an act, really. But the man in the golden suit was a good act, and he didn't want to be a person he forgot, someone who was a step above his shadow. Underneath, the he had to perform miracles, or at least make it appear that they were performed, which was almost as good. He had to perform one in an hour or two, that was certain. Oh well. He went back to the post office and about to some sign a figure said psst. Or rather, he said pissed. I expect you meant piss, Alma said Moist. St. Alice stepped out of the shadows wearing his old grand trunk donkey jacket and a huge helmet with horns on. We've been running slow on the canvas, said. Why the helmet? It's a disguise. A big horned helmet? Yes, it makes me so noticeable, no, despite I'm trying not to be noticed, so it won't bother me. Only a very intelligent man would think of something like that, so Moist carefully. What's happening? We need more time. What? The race starts at 6. It won't be dark enough. We need to get the sails up till 5:30 at least. At least 5 if we hook over our head over the parapet before then. Oh, come on, the air towers are far away. The people on the road aren't. Blast! He'd forgotten about the road. All it'll take later is someone saying he's seen people on the old wizarding tower. Listen, we got all ready to raise. We can work fast. We're up there. We just need half an hour of darkness, maybe a few minutes more. Okay, I can do that, I think, and I'll get back up there and help them, but don't start till I'm there, understand? Trust me. I'm saying that a lot, he said, as the man hurried away. I just hope they will. He went to his office. The golden suit was on a hanger, and he put it on. There was work to do. It was dull, but it had to be done. So he did it. And at 8:30, the floorboards creaked as Mr. Bump walked into the room, dragging a broomstick behind him. Soon it'll be time for the race, Mr. Lipfig. I wish to ask a few things. There are letters here from builders, architects, and someone wants me to cure their awards. I only have to deal with the paperwork, Mr. Pump. In the privacy of Rachel Glitt's kitchen, Igor very carefully wrote a note. There are necessities to be observed after all. You didn't just leg it like a thief in the night. You tied it up, make sure a larder was stocked, washed the dishes, and took exactly what you're owed from the petty cash box. Shame, really. It'd been a pretty good job. The lid hadn't expected him to do much, and Igor had enjoyed terrorizing the other servants. Most of them, anyway. It's so sad you're going, Mr. Igor, said Miss Glowsberry, the cook. She'd have to rise a handkerchief. You've been a real breath of fresh air. It can't be helped, Mrs. Glowberry. I shall miss your steak and kidney pie, no mistake. It doth my heart good to see a woman who can really make something out of leftovers. I did you this, Mr. Igor, so the cook hastily brought me a small flat package. He opened it with care and unfolded a white and red striped blavica. I thought it'll keep your bolt warm, she said, blushing. He agonized for a moment. He liked and respected the cook. He'd never seen a woman handle sharp knives so skillfully. Sometimes you just had to forget the code of Igor's. Mrs. Glowberry, did you say you had a sister in Quorum? That's right, Mr. Igor. Now would be a very good time for you to go and visit her, he said firmly. Do not ask me why. Goodbye, Mrs. Glowberry. I shall remember your liver with fondness. And yes, he does have a lisp. It's customary. I'm doing the best I can with that. Now it was 10 minutes to 6. If you leave now, Miss Elmer, you'll be just in time, the golem rumbled. This is the work of civic importance, Mr. Pump. I am showing rectitude and attention to duty. Yes, Mr. Lipwig. You only let go until 10 minutes past the hour because it takes 5 minutes to get there, a nonchalant saunter. When the golem lumbering behind him, suddenly approaching antithesis and near nonchalance or sauntering, he left the post office behind. The crowd party was approaching her, cheers and laughter. People saw the broomstick over her shoulder. It had stars on it, and therefore it must be magic, or so such beliefs or fortunes are made. Find a lady, find a lady. There's a science to it in a way. Of course, after he found out how to hold 3 cards in a loose stack, that was really the key. He learned to be good at it, but he found mere mechanical tricks a bit dull, a bit beneath him. There are ways to mislead, to distract him to anger. Anger was always good. Angry people made mistakes. There was a space in the center square around the stagecoach in which a lead-pipe Jim sat proudly. The horses gleamed. The coachwork sparkled in torchlight, and those staying around sparkled rather less. There were a couple people in the trunk, several wizards, Otto Scheck, the iconographer, and they returned to welcome Moist. Expressions ranged from relief to suspicion. We were considering disqualification, Miss Lois said, critically, looking severe. Hand a broom to Mr. Pump. I do apologize, our chancellor, taking some stamp designs and completely lost track of time. Oh, good evening, Professor Pleck. The professor of morbid bibliomancy gave him a big grin, held up a jar. And Professor Gorte said, the old chap thought he'd see what all the fuss about. And this is Mr. Pony of the Grand Trunk, said critically. He shook hands, engineer. Mr. Glader's not to be not with you. He's, watching for his coach, said the engineer, looking nervously moist. Well, since you're both here, Mr. Stibbins will hand you a copy of the message, said our chancellor, Mr. Stibbins. 2 packages to hand over, moistened his and burst out laughing. But it's a book, said Mr. Pony. It'll take all night to code, and there's diagrams. Okay, let's dance, thought Moist, and move like a cobra. He snatched it from a stall pony, thumbed through it quickly, grabbed a handful of pages, and ripped them out with a gasp of crowds. There you are, sir, he said, handing the pages over. There's your message. Pages 79 to 128. We'll deliver the rest of the book, and the recipient can put your pages in later if they arrive. He's more Professor Clegg glaring at him, and I'm sure it'd be prepared very neatly. If the stupid gesture was big, loud, funny, and cruel, and Moist didn't know how to get attention of the crowd, he didn't know anything. Moist backed away, clutching the stricken chapter. I didn't mean to try, but Moist started it. After all, we got a big coach for such a small book. It's just the pictures take time to code. You weren't used to this sort of thing. Machinery didn't answer back. Moist allowed a look of genuine concern. Yes, that does seem unfair, he said. He turned to ponder Stibbins. Don't you think it's unfair, Mr. Stibbins? He looked puzzled. Once they coded, it only taken a couple hours to get to Galena. Nevertheless, I must insist, said Moist. We don't want an unfair advantage. Stand down, Jim, he called to coachman. We're going to give the Clacks a head start. Oh, well, that's interesting. He turned to ponder, Mr. Pony's expression of innocent hopefulness. Well, now are we alright, gentlemen? They exploded. The cloud exploded. Gods, I'm good at this. Moist thought I didn't want this moment to go on forever. Mr. Lipwig, a voice called out. He scanned the face of the writer. Ah, Miss Saturissa, penciled already. Are you seriously telling us you want to wait while the Grand Trunk prepares their message? She was laughing. Indeed, said Moist, grasping the lapels on his gleaming jacket. We in the post office are fair-minded people. May I take this opportunity to tell you about our new green cabbage stamp, by the way? Surely you've gone too far, Miss Lipwig. All the way to Galena, my dear lady. I mentioned the gum is cabbage-flavored. Ew. He couldn't have stopped himself now for hard money. This sort of soul lived dancing on an avalanche, making the world up as he went along, reaching in people's ears and changing their minds. For this he offered glasses, diamonds, let the fine lady cards fly under his fingers, so smiling from a clerk examining 5 fake bills. This is the feeling he craved, the raw and naked at time of pushing the envelope. I guess right now he literally is pushing an envelope. Reacher Glit moved through a crowd like a shark along minnows. He gave a carefully neutral look into Mr. Pony. Is there a problem, gentlemen? It's getting late. It sounded fluctuated by chuckles. Pony tried to explain so far as how any cripple was going on. I see. You're pleased to make fun of us, Mr. Levig. Now allow me to say we at the Grand Trunk are not taking a miss if you should leave right now. I think we can spare you a couple hours, eh? Oh, certainly, said Moist, if it will make you feel any better. Indeed it will, said Glit gravely. It would be for the best, Mr. Levig, we take her a long way away from here. He heard the tone because he was expecting it. Glit was being reasonable and statesmanlike, but his eye was a dark metal ball and there was a harmonica murder under his voice. And he said, Is Mr. Grote well, Mr. Levig? I'm sorry to hear the attack. Attack, Mr. Glit? I heard he was hit by falling timber, said Moist, and that question entitles you to no mercy at all, no matter what. Ah, then I was misinformed. I'll know to listen to rumors in the future. I'll pass on your good wishes to Mr. Grote. He raised his hand. Goodbye, Miss Ludwig. I wish you the best luck in your gallant attempt. There are some dangerous people on board. He raised on hat said, I intend to leave them behind very soon, Mr. Glit. There, he thought. We said it all, and a nice labor newspaper thinks we're good chums, or at least just business while I was being stiffly polite. Let's spoil the mood. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen, he said. Miss Hunt, be so good to put the broom on the coach, would you? Broom? That broom with the one on stars? You're taking a broomstick? Yes, they'll come in handy if we break down. I protest, Arch-Chancellor, said Glit, spinning around. The man intends to fly to Galena. I have no such intention. I resent the allegation. Is this why you appear so confident, snarled Glit? And there was a snarl there, and then a little sad crack appearing. A broomstick could travel fast enough to blow your ears off. It wouldn't need too many towers to break down, and heavens knew they broke down all the time for a broomstick to beat the Clacks to Galena. That's why since it could fly directly, we had to follow the big dog leg the coach rode and the Grand Trunk took. The trunk would have to be really unlucky, and a person flying broom would be really frozen, probably dead, but even in a day, the broomstick could fly right over to Galena. That might just do it. Glit's face is a mask of glee. Now he knew what Moist intended. Round and round she goes, and where she stops no one knows. How is the heart of any scammer fiddled? Keep the punter uncertain. If he is certain, make him certain of the wrong thing. I demand that no broomstick is taken by the coach, said Glit the Arch-Chancellor, which was not a good mood. You didn't demand anything of wizards. You requested. If Mr. Little is not confident in his equipment, he went on, I suggest he concedes right now. We're traveling along some dangerous roads, said Moist. A broomstick may be essential. However, I am forced to agree with this. Gentlemen, said Wrigley with distaste, it might not look right, Mr. Ludwig. He threw his hands. As you wish, sir, of course it is a blow. May I request even-handed treatment, though? Your meaning? There's a horse station in each tower to be used when the tower breaks down. That's normal practice, snapped Glit. Only in the mountains, and even then only in the most isolated towers, but I suspect there will be one at every tower. It's a Pony Express, Arch-Chancellor. Apologies to Mr. Pony. They could easily be our coach as sending a word of code. You couldn't possibly suggest him to take a message all the way on horseback. You were suggesting I'd fly, said Moist, and Mr. Glit's not confident in his equipment, Arch-Chancellor. I suggest he concede now. And there it was, a shadow on Mr. Glit's face. He was more than just irate now. He passed into a calm, limpid waters of utter visceral fury. So let's agree to send a test of horses against broomsticks, Moist. It's stagecoach against Clack's tower. If the stage breaks down, we repair the stage. If the tower breaks down, you repair the tower. That seems fair, I must say, said Wrigley, and so I rule. However, I must take Mr. Ludwig aside to issue a word of warning. He pulled his arm around Moissure's limb around the coach. He leaned out to the face of Eugenia's part. You are aware that painting a few stars on an ordinary broomstick doesn't mean it'll get airborne, right? Moist looked from a pair of milky blue eyes at innocent as a child, particularly a child trying to look hard to look innocent. My goodness, doesn't it? He patted his shoulder. Best to leave things as they are, I feel, he said happily. And Gillette looked at him, smiled as Moist returned. There's just too much of this, so he didn't raise the stakes. Always push your luck, because no one else will push it for you. Would you care for a little personal wager, Mr. Gillette, just to make it interesting? He owned it well, if you couldn't read the tells, the little signs. Dear me, Mr. Gillette, the gods approve of gambling, he gave a short laugh. What is life but a lottery, Mr. Gillette? Shall we say $100,000? That did it. That was the last straw. He saw something snap inside him. 100,000. Where would you like hands on that kind of money, Mr. Ludwig? Oh, I just placed it together, Mr. Gillette. Doesn't everyone know that? He said to general amusement. He gave the coachman a most insolent smile. And where would you lay your hands on $100,000? Ha! I accept the wager then. We'll see you laugh tomorrow, he said bluntly. I look forward to it. And now I have you in the hollow of my hand, he thought. The hollow of my hand. You're enraged now. You're making wrong decisions. You're walking the plank. He climbed the coach and turned to the crowd. Guina, ladies and gentlemen, Guina or bust. Someone will, yelled wagging the crowd. Now, Moist bowed and he straightened up, looking in the face of the doorbell Dearheart. Will you marry me, Miss Dearheart? He shouted. Oh. There was an ooh from the crowd, and Sandra turned her head like a cat seeing the next mouse. What a shame the paper had only one front page, isn't it? Mr. Hart blew a smoke ring. Not yet, she said calmly, thanking a mixture of cheers and boos. He waved, jumped down from the driver and said, Hit it, Jim. Jim cracked his whip for the sound of the thing. The coach moved away with cheering. Most stood back and made out Mr. Pony pushing eternally for a crowd in the direction of the Trump Tower. He stood back in the streets and light of the coach lamps. Maybe it was the gold working its way in from outside. He could feel something filling him like a mist. When he moved his hand, he sure left a trail of flecks in the air. He was still flying. Jim, do I look alright? I can't see much in this light, sir, said the coachman. Can I ask a question? Go ahead. Why did you give him just the middle pages? 2 reasons, Jim. Makes us look good and makes him look like a whiny kid. And the other is a bit about all the color restrictions. I hear it takes ages to color one of those. You're so sharp you'll cut yourself, Miss Ludwig, eh? Damn straight. Drive with the blazes, Jim. Oh, I know how to give him a show, sir. You can bank on it. Hey-ya! The whip cracked again, and the sound of hooves bounced off the buildings. 6 horses, a moist morale up Broadway. I, sir, might as well make a name for myself, sir. So that when you reach your wizard tower, I'll get off there. Do you get some guards? 4 of them, Miss Lee, laying low inside. Men of repute and integrity, known them since we were lads. Nosher Harry, Skullbreaker Tap, Grievous Bodily Harmsworth, and Joe No-Nose Tozer. They're all mates, sir, don't you worry, and look forward to a little holiday in Guina. Yeah, we got all our buckets and spades, growled a voice on inside. I were having a dozen watchmen. The coach trotted on, leaving the outlying suburbs behind. The road under the wheels came rougher, but the coach swung and danced along his steel strings. After you drop me off, you can rein them in a bit. No need to rush, Jim. In the glow of the coach lamps, Moist saw Jim's red face glow with guile. It's your plan, eh, sir? It's a wonderful plan, Jim, said Moist, and I'll have to make sure it doesn't work, he thought. Wondering what's going on now. This is interesting. The lights of the coach disappeared, leaving moist and chilly darkness. In the distance, the faint glowing smoke and pork made a great trailing mushroom of a cloud that blinded off the stars. Things rustled in the bushes, and the breeze wafted the scent of cabbages over endless fields. He waited till he got some night vision. The tower appeared a column of night without stars. All he could do was find his way through a dense, brambly, and root-knotted woodland. He made a noise like an owl. Since he was an ornithologist, he was by going, hoo, hoo. The woodland exploded with owl hoots. Their owls that roosted in the old wizarding towers drove you mad in a day. There was no obvious effectiveness that the noises they made included every possible sound made a living and even dying creature. There was definitely some elephant in there and possibly some hyena too, and a bit of bed spring. When it did die down, a voice in a few feet whispered, Alright, Miss Logan, it's me, Adrian. Grab a hand, let's go before the others start fighting again. What about? And they drive each other up on the wall. Feel this rope? Can you feel it? Right. You move fast, you scattered the trail and strung the rope. They hurried through the trees. You'd be really close to the tower to see a glow coming through the ruined doorway at the base. Undecided, Adrian fixed some of his little cold lights up the inner wall, and stones moved under his feet as he scrambled to the top. He paid them no attention, but ran up the spiral stairs so fast when he reached the top, he spun. Mad out, caught my shoulders. Notice that cheerfully got 10 minutes to go. It would have been 20 minutes ago if someone hadn't lost a hammer, muttered St. Alex, straight into the tiny wire. What? I put it in the toolbox, didn't I? In the spanner drawer. So? Who would look for a hammer in the spanner drawer? Now, look, they all start up again. Look, he said, it's not important, is it, right now? This man, he said, pointing at the accusing wrench, is mad. Not as mad as someone keeps his screws neatly by size in jam jars, said Man Owl. That counts as sane, but no rummaging is half the fun. Besides, it is done, said that undecided Adrian. Once looked up. The Ginnu's clax machine rose up, and I just had it on the post office roof. Beside inertia, an H-shaped structure climbed even further. Looked a little like the ship's mast, and effectively caused by wires that stated. They rattled in the faint breeze. You must have set someone's Adrian when I was here to settle down. A message sent over 20 minutes ago from Blade himself said the big one to go for the duplex. Big Cam's taking on to change it anyway. And there's been no traffic at all till a restart Mr. Glit. He'll personally sack the entire staff and tires and strictly follow his instructions. Let me read that again. I'm trying to figure out what was going on. Okay, message sent through 20 minutes ago said the big one will go through a duplex. Big Cam's taking on to change it. Okay, so the big message goes through there, no changing it, no other traffic until he sends a restart message, and he'll fire anyone who doesn't send it. Okay. It just goes to show it is a people company, said Moise. No, undecided Adrian and Mad Alex walked over a big frame and unwind some ropes. Oh, well, thought Moise, now for it. There's just one alteration to plan, he said. We're not seeing the woodpecker. What do you mean, said Adrian? That was the plan. It'll destroy the trunk. And that was the plan, sure enough. Ghost got a good as pain kicked me on the side of his pants. Look, it's falling down its own cord anyway, right? It's just an experiment first way, so you can build it faster and better. How? Said Moise. Where will the money come from? I know a way to destroy a company and leave the tower standing. This is stolen from the Deerhearts and their partners, and I can give it back. But the only way to build a better line is leave the old one standing. The trunk's got to earn. That's the sort of thing Glit would say. It's true, said Moise. Alex, you're sane. Tell the man. Keep the trunk operating, replace one tower at a time, never dropping any code. People out there in the towers, they won't be proud of what they do. Yes, it's tough work and they don't get paid enough they live to shift code, right? Their company's running into the ground, but they still shift it. He tugged on a rope. Hey, the can is stuck, he announced. It must have been caught up when we furled it. Well, I'm sure the woodpecker will still work, Moise said, plunging on. Might even damage enough towers for long enough, but Glit will twist his way out of it. You understand? He'll shout about sabotage. So what's the matter? We got this lot back in the car in an hour and no one will ever know we're here. I'll climb up and free it, shall I? Undecided Adrian, shaking the canvas. I said it won't work. Leaving away. Look, Mr. Owl, it's not going to be settled by fire. It's going to be settled with words. We'll tell the world what happened to the trunk. You're talking to Kill about that? Yes, but you can't prove anything. We heard it's all illegal. I doubt it's in Moise, so it doesn't matter. I don't have to prove anything. I said it's about words and how you twist and how you can spin on people's heads so they think the way you want them to. We'll send a message our own, and do you know what? The boys in the towers will want to send it. When people know what it says, they'll want to believe it because they want to live in a world where it's true. It's my words against his, and I'm better at them than he is. I can take him down to sentence, Mr. Mad, and leave every tower standing, and no one will know how it was done. There's a brief explanation behind it and a ton of canvas unfurling fast. Trust me, said Moise. We'll never get our chance like this. Exactly. One man died for every 3 towers staying, do you know that? You know they'll never really die while the trunk's alive, said Moise. Was a loud shot, but it hit something. He sensed it. It lives while the code is shifted and they live with it. It's always going home. Will you stop that? You can't stop it. I can't stop it, but I can stop Glit. Trust me. The canvas hung like a sail as someone intended to launch the towers. 8 feet high and 30 feet wide, moved like a lull in the wind. Where's Adrian? Said Moise. Through the sail. They rushed to the edge of the tower and looked down at the darkness. Adrian? A voice from below said, yes. What are you doing? Just, hanging around, and I'll lay on my head. There's a small tearing noise, seeing as I cut a hole in the canvas. Here comes your forward. What? The message is saying for Tower 2. Take a look, he said, backing away. He peeked or slid back to the sea, and a distant tower was sparkling. My house showed a half-sized clock, so Rain grabbed the handles. All right, Miss Olivia, let's hear your plan. Alex, give him a hand. Adrian, just hang on, all right? You're trying to push a dead mouse in my ear, said a reproachful voice. He shut his eyes, Lamb saw someone buzzing a man to speak. Behind and above him, the huge expanse of canvas just sent to block the line of sight between the 2 distant towers, and from the smoking news half-size tower just the right size to look to the next tower in line, like a bigger one a little way off. All you could see were the lights. The class in front of him shook as the shadows rattled. Now a new message jogging across the sky. It was only a few hundred words. When he finished, the class rattled the last few letters, and they fell silent. After a while, Moise said, will he pass it along? Oh, yes, said Mad Owl in a flat voice. They'll send it. You're sitting up in a tower in the mountains. You'll get a signal like that. You'll get away and out of your tower as fast as you can. I don't know if we ought to shake your hand or throw you off the tower, as the St. Alex suddenly. That was evil. What sort of man would dream up something like that? Me. Now let's bully dream up, shall we? And I bring it back to the city. An armoscope is one of the most powerful instruments known to magic, and therefore one of the most useless. It can see everything with ease. Getting to see anything is where the wonders work, because there's so much everything, which is to say everything it can, will, has, should, or might happen in all universes, that anything, any particular thing, is hard to find. A vortex that evolved to control algorithms, completing in a day a task that taken 500 wizards at least 10 years, almoscopes used purely as mirrors as the wonderful blackness they showed. This did not be because nothing to see is what most universe consisted of, and many wizards have peacefully trimmed his beard while gazing in the dark heart of the cosmos. There are very few steerable omniscopes. It took a long time making and cost a great deal, and wizards are not keen on making any more. They were for them to look at the universe, not for the universe to look at them. Besides, they didn't believe in making life too easy for people, at least for people who aren't wizards, and omniscopes are a rare, treasured, and delicate thing. But today, with that special occasion, they've thrown open the doors to a richer, cleaner, more hygienic sections of society. A long table is set for second tea. Nothing excessive, a few dozen roast fowls, a couple cold salmon, 100-liter Fiat salad bar, a pile of loaves, and 1 or 2 kegs of beer, and of course the chutney, pickle, relish train, one trolley not considered big enough. People had filled the place and staying around chatting, above all, being there, in capital letters. What slipped unnoticed for now because people were watching University's biggest omniscope. Our shots are regularly thumped aside a thing with handcuffs in the rock. It's still not working, Mr. Stibbins. Here's that enormous damn fiery eye again. uh, I'm sure we had it right, said, filling with the rear of the big disc. It's me, sir, devious collarbone, sir, said a voice on the scope. The fiery eye she pulled back and was replaced by a big fiery nose. I'm here at the terminal tower, sir, in Guina. Sorry about the redness, sir. I'm picking analogy of seaweed, sir. Hello, Mr. Collarbone, you're vertically. How are you? How's the shellfish research? Shellfish research going along. Not very well, so I developed a nasty, good, lucky chap, he said, increasing the volume. I wouldn't mind being in Guina myself this time of year. Sun, sea, surf, and sand. Actually, it's the west season, wherever the fungus growing on the wonderful, I can't stand here and chew your fat all day. Has anything arrived? We're agog. Could you stand back a little further, please, Mr. Collins upon her? You don't really need to speak so loudly, our chancellor. Chap's a long way away, man. Not as such, sir. Very well, Mr. Collins, you may proceed. The crowd behind our chancellor pressed forward, and then Collarbone backed away. This has all been much for man spent his days and no one talked to but bivalves. Well, I had a message by clack, sir, but nothing for the post office? No, sir, nothing, sir. There were cheers, and boos, and general laughter from the crowd. In a shallow corner, most saw Lord Van Eyre right beside the Arch-Chancellor. He scanned the rest and saw Richard Glitz standing on one side surprisingly not smiling, and Glitz saw him. One look was enough. The man was uncertain. Not totally certain. Welcome to fear, Moy said to himself. It's hope turned inside out. You know it can't go wrong. You're sure it can't go wrong. But it might. And I've got you. Oh, I love this. Devious collarbone coughed. Well, I don't think as much as the one ridiculously sent, he says, voice gone squeaky. What makes you think that? Because it says it, and it says it's from dead people. You mean it's an old message? No, sir, I better read it, shouldn't I? You want me to read it? That's the point, man. In the big disc of glass, collarbone cleared his throat. Who will listen to the dead? We who die as the words could fly demand justice now. These are the crimes of the board of the Grand Trunk. Theft, embezzlement, breach of trust, corporate murder. And we move to chapter 14. Oh, this is getting good. Deliverance. Lord Van Eyre requests silence. Mr. Lipwood comes down. Mr. Pump moves on, fooling no one but yourself. The bird, concludedum, and freedom of choice. I think we're at the end. I just think we are. The great hall is in an uproar. Most of the wizards took the opportunity to congregate at a buffet, which was now clear. There's something a wizard hates having to wait while a person in front of them has two minds about Postal. It's a salad bar, they say. It's got the stuff salad bars have. It's surprising it wouldn't be a salad bar. You wouldn't be here to look at. What do you expect to find? Rhino chunks, pickled coelacanth? I think that's how you say it. I know it's some ancient fish, but I've never figured out how you say it. Coelacanth, I guess. Coelacanth. The lecturer in recent ruins allowed more bacon bits into his salad bowl, having artfully constructed buttresses of celery and breastworks of cabbage to increase his depth 5 times. Any fellows not despise, said, raising his voice. Seems to be upsetting a lot of people. It's this Claxton instead of chair of recent ruins. I never trusted it. Poor collarbone, decent young man away, good man to well, seems to be a spot of bother. It was quite a large spot of bother. Devious collar was opening and shutting mouth the other side of the glass like a stranded fish. In front of man who really cleave his Raymond Angers tried and trust to approach most problems. Sorry, sir, that's what it says when you ask me to read. It goes on and on, sir. And that's what the class people gave you, are you sure? Yes, sir, it did look at me in a funny way, sir, but this is definitely it. Why should I make anything up, sir? I spent most of my time in tank, sir. A boring, lonely tank, sir. Not one more word, screamed Greenham. I forbid, besides Mr. Noe sprayed his drink across several dripping guests. Excuse me, you forbid, sir, said Wrigley, turning on Greenham's son fury. Sir, I am the master of this college. I will not, sir, be told what to do in my own university. If there's anything to be forgiven, sir, I will do the forbidding. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Collarbone. Mr. Collarbone panted, longing for death. I said, carry on, man. Yes. There was no safety. There was no pride. It was all about money. Everything became money, and money became everything. Money treated us as if we were things, and we died. There is no law in this place. This is outright slander, said Stoley. It's a trick of some sort. By whom, sir? Do you bring any deception Mr. Collarbone and Wizard of Great Integrity who is doing a wonderful work with snakes? Shellfish is playing some kind of joke? How dare you, sir? Continue, Mr. Collarbone. That's an order, Dr. Collarbone. Blood oils the machinery Grand Trunk is willing. We'll be able to pay with our lives for board coughful stupidity. The hubbub rose again. Moist saw Lord Van Eyre's gaze traverse the room. He didn't duck in time. When the patrician's stare passed right through him, carrying away who knew what, an eyebrow raised in interrogation. Moist looked away and saw not Glitz. He wasn't there. And on the omniscope, Mr. Collarbone's nose now glowed like a beacon. He struggled, dropping pages, losing his pace, and passed on while dog contortion man could spend all day watching one oyster. Nothing less than an attempt to blacken our good names and the whole city, Stoley was protesting. Unaware of the toll that was being taken, what can we say to the men that caused us to encounter around a table and killed us by numbers? This, I'll sue the university! I'll sue the university! Screamed Green. He picked up a chair and hurled it at the omniscope. Halfway to glass, it turned to a small flock of doves who panicked and soared up to the roof. Oh, please sue the university, Ridically bellowed. We have a pond full of people who tried to sue the university. And just imagine if they try to sue them, they get turned into fish. There was a silence, said Venari. There wasn't a loud word, but had effect where like a drop of black ink in a glass of water. And the words spread out in coils and tendrils getting everywhere. It strangled the noise. Of course, there's always someone not paying attention. And furthermore, so went on, oblivious and holding hush in his little world of righteous indignation, it's plain that I will have silence, Venari stated. So he stopped, looked around, deflated. Silence now ruled. Very good, said Venari quietly. He nodded to Commander Vines, the watcher whispered to Nura, watching, and pushed slowly through the crowd toward the door. He turned to Rickley. Archchancellor, be grateful and instruct your student to continue, please. He went on the same tone. Certainly. Off you go, Dr. Professor Colorado, in your own time. He called him doctor earlier. I'm not sure if that's synonymous, but well. As far as further on, the men who can obtain control of trunk via a ruse known as a double lever, and the main using money entrusted by his clients who do not suspect that. Stop reading that, Mike Greenham shouted. This is ridiculous. It's slander upon slander. I am certain I spoke, Mr. Greeningham, said Venari. Greeningham faltered. Thank you. Good. These are very serious allegations, certainly. Embezzlement, murder. I'm sure I'm sorry that Mr. Sorry, Professor Collarburn's a trustworthy man, and the omniscope devious Collarbone, Unseen University's newest professor. Oh, he just accidentally got promoted. That's what happened. And he knows it. Nodded desperately. He was only reading what had been delivered, so it appeared to originate from within your own company. Serious allegations, Mr. Greeningham, made in front of all these people. Yes, accidental promotion is the best kind. Are you just going to treat them as some sort of prank? The city is watching, Mr. Greeningham. Oh, Mr. Stoley appears ill. This is not the place for you tried, aware once more of the creaking of ice. It's the ideal place. It is public. In the circumstance given the nature of the allegations, I'm sure everyone required to get to the bottom as soon as possible, only to prove them totally groundless. He looked around. There was a chorus of agreement. Even the upper crust loved his show. What do you say, Mr. Greeningham? He said nothing. The clacks were spraying, the ice was springing up on every side. Very well, said Venari. He turned to the figure beside him. Commander Vimes, piece of goods to send them into the office of the Grand Trunk Company, Ank Stowe Associates, Stowe Plains Holdings, Ank Futures, and particularly the premises Anglo-Port Mercantile Credit Bank. Inform the manager, Mr. Cheeseborough, that the bank is closed for audit, and I wish to see my office at his earliest convenience. Any man of any of these premises so much as moves a piece of paper before my clerks arrive be arrested and held complicit in any all such offenses. While this is happening, moreover, no person associated with the Grand Trunk or its employees is to leave this room. Oh wow, they're going to be stuck here for hours. You can't do that, Greeningham protested weakly, but the fire had drained out, and Mr. Sully collapsed on the floor with his head in his hands. Can I not, said Venari? I'm a tyrant. It's what we do. What's happening? Who am I? Where is this place? Mr. Sully, a man who believed in lying down some groundwork as soon as possible. But there's no evidence. That wizard is lying. Someone must have been bribed, Greeningham pleaded. Not only the iceberg company was on the ice floe with a big hungry walrus. Mr. Greeningham, one more invited outburst from you, and you will be imprisoned. I hope that is clear. I'm like a charge, like Graham still find a last nerve hot toward from somewhere. There doesn't have to be one. And that's true, he doesn't. He's a tyrant. Rope swirling at the edge of darkness, Venari swung around the omniscope and devious Collarbone, whom 2,000 miles away, sounding not far enough. Continue, Professor. There will be no further interruptions. Moose watched the odds on Collarbone start and mispronounced for the rest of the message. It dealt with the generalities or in particulars, but there were dates, names, thundering denunciations. There's nothing new. Not really new, but it's packaged in fine language and delivered by the dead. We who died on the dark towers demand this of you. He ought to be ashamed. It was one thing to put words in the mouth of gods. Priests did that all the time, but this was a step too far. He'd be kind of a bastard to think of something like this. He relaxed a bit. A fine, upstanding citizen wouldn't stoop so low, but he hadn't got this job because he was a fine, upstanding citizen. Some tasks needed a good, honest hammer, and others needed a twisty corkscrew. With any luck, he could believe that, if he really tried. I know he feels a little guilty, but frankly, he honestly shouldn't, because they deserve it, and these dead people deserve this too. There had been a late fall of snow, and fir trees on Tower 181 had been clustered with light under the hard, bright starlight. Everyone was there that night: Grandad, Roger, Big Steve-O, Wheezy Half-Size, the dwarf had to sit in a cushion to reach the keyboards, and Princess. There were a few muffled exclamations and messages come through. Now the sound suffered a sighing of the wind. I see people's breath in the air. Grandad was drumming his fingers. And we said, was that all real? The bright clouds got denser. People relaxing, come back to the real world. You saw the instructions we got, said Grandad, staring across the dark forest. Don't change anything. Send it on, I said. We sent it on. We damn well sent it on. Who was it from? Doesn't matter. Message comes in, message goes out, message moves on. Yeah, but it was really from bloody hell, Steve. You don't know when to shut up, do you? Said Roger. Only I heard for night free and the guys died in the same tower center distress zone by itself. He mumbled. He was fastening the keys, not knowing the shop was the only one of his social failings, and a tower can get you killed. Dead man's handle, said Granddad. You should know if there's not 2 to 10 minutes of signature key slide, the drum drops the jackboard in the slide, and the counterweight falls, and the tower sends a help sign. He spoke the words of reading from a manual. Yeah, I heard the jackboard is wedged, and I can't stand this, murder, Granddad. Roger Gillen, let's get this tower working, and we have local signals to send, haven't we? Sure, instead of waiting on the drum, the build's enough to restart until he can kiss my name again. Remember this company and finish. Donkey. You read what went through just now. Do you think that man is still in charge? Princess looked out the upstream window. 182 is left, she announced. Right, let's live and shift code. That's what we do, and who's going to stop us? Oh, is that something to do? Get out. We're running. Princess went on a little platform to be out of the way. Underfoot, the snow was like icing sugar, and her nostrils, the air was like knives. When she looked across the mountains in the direction she learned to think of as downstream, she could see it one tower 180 was sending. And at moment she heard a clink, thump, and click of 181's own shutters opening, dislodging in snow. We shift code, she thought. That's what we do. Up on a tower, watching a starlight twinkle the trunk in the clear, freezing air, it was being part of the sky, and she wondered what Granddad feared more, the dead classmen could send messages, or if they couldn't. Collarbone finished. They produced a handkerchief and rubbed away with whatever green stuff had begun to grow on the glass. This made a squeaking sound. He peered nervously on the smear. Is that all right, sir? I'm not in any sort of trouble, am I? Only the moment I need to be translating a mating call with a giant clam. Thank you, Professor Collarbone. Good job. Well done. That'll be all, said Wrigley coldly. Unhinging the mechanism, Mr. Stibbins. A look of further relief crossed Collarbone's face just before the omniscope went blank. Mr. Pony, you're chief engineer of the Grand Trunk, are you not? Said Van for the babble could rise again. The engineer suddenly focused by all attention back away his attention. Please, your lordship, and just in your, I don't know anything. Calm yourself, please. Have you heard the souls of dead men travel in the trunk? Oh, yes, your lordship. Is it true? Well, he looked around, a hunted man. He had his pink carbon copies. They show everyone he was nothing more than a man who tried to make things work, but right now all he could find on his side was the truth. He took refuge. I can't see how, but well, sometimes when you're up in the tower at night, the shards are rattling, the wind singing in the rigging, well, you might think it's true. I believe it's a tradition called sending home. He looked surprised. Oh, why, yes, sir, but Pony felt he ought to wave a little flag for the rational word, which right now he didn't have a lot of faith in. The trunk was dark where he ran the message, so I don't see how the message could have got on. Unless, of course, the dead put it there. Mr. Point, for the good of your soul and off leash your body, will you not go to the Tump Tower destroyed by Commander Lime's men, and send a brief message to all towers? You'll obtain the paper tapes, which I believe are known as drum rolls, from all towers on the Grand Trunk. I believe they show a record of all messages originating in that tower, which cannot be readily altered. That would take weeks to do, sir, Pony protested. An early start in the morning would seem to be in order, then. Mr. Pony suddenly spotted that a spell along wavering before might be a healthy option. Mort nodded and said, Right you are, my lord. The Grand Trunk remained closed the interim, and Lord Van Ari said, That's private property, Greenham burst out. Tyrants, remember, said Van Ari more cheerfully, but I'm sure the audit will serve to destroy at least some of the aspects of this mystery. One of them, of course, said Mr. Richard Lett does not seem to be in this room. Every head turned. Perhaps he remembered some other engagement, said Lord Van Ari. I think he slipped out some time ago. It dawned on directors of the Grand Trunk their chairman was absent, and what was worse, they weren't. They drew together. Prey instinct. They draw together in numbers, so only one of them will be picked off. I wonder if at this point I might discuss the matter with you privately, your lordship, said Graham, but Reacher is not easy to deal with, I'm afraid. Not a team player, gasped Nutmeg. Who says still? What's his place? Who are these people? I'm just totally in the dark most of the time, said Graham. I can't remember things, said Stoley. I'm not fit to testify. Any doctor would tell you. I think it's saying I have all this weird suspicious of them all along. Mine's a total blank now. What's this thing with fingers on? Who I am? Lord Van Ari stared at the board for 5 seconds longer and was comfortable tapping his chin gently with the knob of his cane. He smiled faintly. Quiet. Well, Commander Vines believe it iniquitous to detain these men any longer. And his face in front relaxed and smile full of hope. The greatest gifts he had. To the cells of them, Commander. Separate cells, if you please. I'll see them in the morning. If Mr. Slank comes to see you on your behalf, do tell him I'd like a little chat, would you? I think Lord Van Ari is enjoying this. He doesn't really act like a tyrant most of the time, because being a tyrant works a lot better if you don't act like one. But sometimes he gets to act like that however he wants, and, well, he enjoys it. That sounded good. Moist strolled through the door with a hubbub rose, and almost made it when Lord Van Ari's voice came out through the throng like a knife. Leaving so soon, Mr. Lipwig? Do wait a moment. I'll give you a lift back to your famous post office. For just a moment, a slice was second contemplated running, but he did not do so. What would be the point? The crowd parted hurriedly as Lord Van Ari headed to the door, and behind him the watch closed in. Ultimately, there is the freedom to take the consequences. The patrician leaned back in the leather upholstery as the coach drew away. What a strange evening, Miss Ludwig. Yes, indeed. Most like the something bewildered Mr. Sully considered his future happiness lie in saying as little as possible. Yes, sir. I wonder that engineer whoop on you, said a strange message put in a glass by human hands. I don't know, your lordship. You don't? No, sir. Ah, well, the dead are known to speak sometimes. Ouija boards and sciences and so on. Who can say they wouldn't use the medium of clacks? Not me, sir. And you're clearly enjoying your new career, Miss Ludwig. Yes, sir. Good. On Monday, your duties include the administration. The Grand Trunk is being taken over by the Oh, wow. Oh, hello, Drac. Hello, hello. Good to see you. So I'll take a second to catch you up to speed here. Basically, they're doing this race between the Clax Towers, which are, of course, near instantaneous, and the post office, which is not. But Moist had a plan, you see. Aside from just putting on a lot of spectacle, he sent a message through the Clax Tower, which they sent on, which basically accused the upper management of doing all sorts of horrible things, which they did in fact do. Naturally, this led to them being freaking out, a bunch of people hearing that, and well, now, well, no, you didn't miss too much, at least I don't think. I'm just giving you the basics so you can listen. But anyway, basically, yeah, he sent a message that pointed out all the blackmail and such that's going on, so now there's a public investigation. Anyway, said Vetinari, well, the dead are known to speak sometimes, Ouija boards and seances and so on. Who can say they wouldn't use the medium of clacks? Not me, sir. And you're clearly enjoying your new career, Miss Ludwig. Yes, sir. Good. On Monday, your duties will include the administration of the Grand Trunk as being taken over the city. Oh, well, so much for future happiness. No, my lord. You raise an eyebrow. There's an alternative, Miss Ludwig? It really is private property, sir, belongs to the Deerhearts and our people who built it. My, how the worm turns, said Vetinari, but the trouble is, you see, they weren't good at business, only mechanisms. Otherwise, they would have seen through glit. The freedom to deceive goes hand in hand with the freedom to fail. It was robbery by numbers, said Moist. It was fine to lead done by the ledgers. They didn't stand a chance. He sighed. You drive a hard bargain, Mr. Ludwig. Moist, who was not aware he tried to drive a bargain at all, said nothing. Oh, very well. The question of ownership will remain in abeyance for now until we have plumbed the sordid depths of this affair. But what I truly mean at the mythos of the great many people depend on a trunk for a living. I share humanitarian considerations must do something. Sort things out, postmaster. But I'm going to have my hands full more than just the post office. I hope you are, but in my experience, the best way to get something done is to give it to someone who is busy, said Lord Vetinari. In that case, I'm going to keep the Durant truck running, said Moist. In all they're dead, perhaps, said Vetinari. Yes, as you wish. Ah, here is your stop. The coach went on the door and he leaned toward Moist. Oh, and I do suggest you go before dawn and check that everyone's left the old wizarding tower, he said. What do you mean, sir, said Moist. He knew his face betrayed nothing. He sat back. Well done, Mr. Lipwig. There was a crowd outside the post office and cheering up as Moist made his way to the doors. It was raining now, and gray, steady drizzle was a little more in a fog with a slight weight problem. Some of the staff were waiting outside and he realized the news hadn't got around. Even the most prominent rumor mill had been beaten back to the university. What happened, Postmaster? Wrote his hand short, saying, there, have we won? No, said Moist, picking the edge of a voice. Have we won? The Arch-Chancellor decided that, Moist. Suppose we won't know for weeks. The class has been shut down, though. I'm sorry. It's all complicated. He left him standing and staring as he trudged up the office from his pump staying in the corner. Good evening, Mr. Lipwig, said the golem boomed. He sat down, put his head in his hands. This is victory, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like a mess. The bets? Well, let Pike got the win. You can make a case for the rules he'd won, but Moist had a feeling all bets are off now. Thought people would get their money back at least. He had to keep the trunk running. Gods knew how. He promised a new, hadn't he? It was amazing how many people come to rely on a class. He wouldn't know how Lead Pike had fared for weeks. Even then, as long as the wizards still cooperative. It wasn't like having a finger cut off. It was a big cumbersome monster thing. Too many towers, too many people, too much effort. Having a way of making it better and sleeker and cheaper. But maybe it was something so big that no one could run at profit. Maybe it's like the post office. Maybe the profit turned up spread on a whole society. Oh, hi, Kirby. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, tomorrow he'd have to take it all seriously. Proper mail runs, many more staff, hundreds of things to do, and many hundreds of other things he had to do those things. It wasn't going to be funny more cocking a snook, whatever a snook was, a big slow giant. He'd once had to pick a piece to make everything work, and here the next day and do it all again. That one was supposed to end. You won, you pocketed cash, and you walked away. That's how the game was supposed to go, wasn't it? His eyes fell on Amberhad's message box on a short stick road strapping, wished he'd been at the bottom of the sea. Mr. Lipwig. He looked up, drummed out the clerk was standing in the doorway, and quick beside him. Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes. Sorry to disturb you, sir, said clerk. We're here to see Mr. Pump. Just a minor adjustment, you don't mind. What? Oh, fine, whatever. Go ahead. They walked over to Golem, and there was some mute conversation down there and screw atop his head. He stared in horror. He knew it was done, but it was shocking to see it happening. There was some rummaging around he couldn't make out, and the cranium was replaced with a little pottery noise. Sorry to disturb you, sir, said Drummond on the clerk's left. Mr. Rump stayed on his knees for a moment and rose slowly. The eyes focused on moist, and he stuck out his hand. I do not know what a pleasure is, but I'm sure if I did, then working with you would have been one. Now I must leave you. I have another task. You're, not my parole officer anymore, said Moist, taken aback. Correct. Hold on, is Van already seeing it through your lid? I'm not at liberty to say. He is he? You're not following me anymore? I am not following you anymore. So I'm free to go? I'm not at liberty to say. Good night, Mr. Lipwig. He paused over. I am not certain what happiness is here, Mr. Lipwig, but I think, yes, I think I am happy to have met you. Aw. And ducking through the doorway, they called and left. That only leaves the werewolf part of his mind thought faster and lighter. They're not much good at boats, and they're completely lost when it comes to oceans. It's the middle of the night, the watch are running around like madmen, everyone's busy. I got a bit of cash, and I still have a diamond ring and a deck of cards. Who'd notice? Who'd care? Who'd worry? He could go anywhere, but that wasn't really him thinking it. It was just a few old brain cells running on automatic. There wasn't anywhere to go. Not anymore. He walked over a big hole in the wall and looked down the hall. Did anyone go home here? But now there's a guy around. If you want any hope of being delivered anywhere tomorrow, you went to the post office. It was quite busy, even now. Cup of tea, Mr. Lipwig, said the voice standing behind him. Thank you, Stanley, said looking around. Below, Miss McClare was staying on a chair and nailing something to the wall. Everyone says to me once, sir, because the class has been shut down, because the directors are in prison, sir. They said all Mr. Upright had to do was get there. But Mr. Gross says the bookies probably won't pay up, sir, and the King of Lancashire wants some stamps paid, but a bit pricey, sir, since they only arrive at 10 letters a year up there. Still, we showed him, the post office back. It's some kind of banner, someone said. I'm sorry. Nothing. Thank you, Miss Stanley. Have fun with your stamps. It's good to see you being so straight, standing so straight. It's like having a new life, Sir Stanley. I better go, sir. Leave me help with the sorting. The banner was crude, but it read, Thank you, Mr. Lipwick. The balloon rolled around moist. It was always bad after he'd won, but this time was the worst. For days his mind had been flying, and he felt alive, and now he just felt numb. They put a banner like that while he was a liar and a thief. He bowled them all, and they were there, thanking him for fooling them. A quiet voice behind him said, Madame, the boys told him she did. Oh, said Moist, turning around. She'd be lighting a cigarette, I thought. It wasn't a nice thing to do, she went on the same level tone. It wasn't a nice thing that would work. There wasn't a nice thing that would work. Art told me to go to my brother, put the idea in your head. No, I'll dream it myself. Good, if you tried it, you'd be limping for the rest of your life, believe me. Thank you, said Moist lightly. It was a lie new people wanted to believe. Just a lie, so I keep home, so I was going to get the grand trunk out of Lid's hands. You probably get it back if you want it, you and all the other people who swindled. I hope I can, but I don't want thinking. She felt her draw nearer. It's not a lie, she said. It's what ought to be true. It pleased my parents. Do they think it's true? They don't want to think it isn't. No one does. I can't stand it, he thought. Look, I know what I'm like. I'm not the person everyone thinks I am. I just want to prove myself to myself I'm not like Lid. More than a hammer, you understand? I'm still a fraud by trade. I thought you knew that. I can fake sincerity so even I can't tell. Miss People's heads. You're fooling no one but yourself, she said, and reached for his hand. He shook her off and ran out of the building out of the city. After his old life or lives, always moving on, selling glasses down, but somehow it didn't seem to work anymore. The flair wasn't there. The phone had dropped out. Even the car didn't seem to work for him. No money around. One winter some in. There was no more in the slum. He turned his face to the wall, and an angel appeared. What just happened? Said Miss Dearheart. Perhaps you do get to. Only a passing thought, said Moist. Let the golden glow rise. He'd fooled them all, even her. But a good bit of what he's going to go on doing it. He didn't have to stop. All he did was remind himself every few months that he could quit any time, provided he knew he could. He'd never have to. And there was Miss Dearheart with a cigarette in her mouth, only a foot away. Oh, wow. He leaned forward. There's a loud call behind him. It turned out to come from Grote, who was holding a large parcel. Sorry, you're up, sir, but this just arrived for you. And sniffed his privilege. Messenger, not one of ours. Thought I'd better bring straight up because there's something moving around inside of it. There was, and Harold, you know it. He opened the lid with care and pulled his fingers away just in time. 12.5%, 12.5%, screamed the cockatoo and landed on Grote's hat. There's no note inside, no box with the address. Why did someone send you a parrot? Said Grote, not caring to raise his hand within reach of the curved beak. It's Clit's, isn't it? Said Mr. Art. He's given you the bird? He smiled. It looks like it, yes. Pieces of 8. 12.5%, yelled the bird. Take it all over you, Mr. Grote. Teach you to say, trust me, said Mr. Art. Good one. Yes, do that, Mr. Grote. When Grote was gone, the cockatoo, now bouncing happily on his shoulder, returned back to the woman. And tomorrow, he said, I'll definitely get the chandeliers back. What? Most of the place doesn't have a ceiling. First things first, trust me. And who knows, you can maybe find a fine polished collar. No one knows what's possible. On the Boston cavern where white feathers began to fall from the roof. It might have been an angel, but it was more like it coming from a pigeon to hawk or just as emboweling on a beam. Still, there were feathers. It was all that style. Sometimes the truth arrived at by adding all the little lies and deducting from the totality of what's known. Lord Van Nars stood at the top of the stairs in the great hall of the place and looked down at his clerks. They'd taken over the whole huge floor of his concludium. Chalked markings, circles, squares, and triangles are drawn here and there on the floor. Within them, papers and ledgers are piled in dangerously neat heaps, and there are clerks, some working outside the inlines and some moving notices from one outline to another. Others bearing pieces of paper as if they were sacrament. Periodically, clerks and watchmen arrived with more files and ledgers, which are solemnly received, assessed, and added to the relevant pile. Abacus clicked everywhere. Clerks padded back and forth. Sometimes they meet in the triangle and beat their heads in quiet discussion. This might result in them heading away in new directions, or increasingly, as the night wore on, one clerk would go and chalk a new outline which began to fill with paper. Sometimes the outline would be empty and rubbed out, and its contents distributed on nearby outlines. No enchanter's circle, no mystic's mandala had ever drawn such painfully meticulous care as conclusions playing out on the floor. Hour after hour went on to patients at first terrified and then bored. It was the warfare clerks that harried the enemy away through many columns and files. Boys could read words that weren't there, but the clerks found numbers that weren't there and weren't there twice, or were there were going the wrong way. They didn't hurry, peel away the lies, and the truth would emerge, naked and ashamed, with nowhere to hide. At 3 a.m., Mr. Cheeseburger arrived in a hurry with bitter tears, learned his bank was a shell of paper. He brought his own clerks, their nightshirts tucked into hastily donned trousers, and went on their knees alongside the other men to spread out more papers, though Shane fears hoped that if you stared at them long enough, they'd add up differently. And then the watch turned up with a small red ledger, it's given a circle of its own, and soon the whole pattern reformed around it. It wasn't until almost dawn the somber men arrived. They were older and fatter and better, but not showily dressed, moving the crevasse of serious money. Their financiers, too, richer than kings, who were often actually quite poor, but hardly anyone to see open their outside circle knew they would notice them in the street. They would quietly cheeseburgers of the one who suffered bereavement, and would talk among themselves and use little old gold-propelling pencils and neat little notebooks making figures dance and jump through hoops. The quiet agreement was reached in the hands or shaken while the circle carried indefinitely more weight than any written contract. The first domino had been stayed. The pillars of the world ceased to tremble. The credit bank would open in the morning. When it did so, bills would be honored and wages would be paid, and the city would be fed. They stated the city with gold more easily at that point than a hero would manage with steel. But in truth, it hadn't been gold, or even the promise of gold, but more like the fantasy of gold. The very dream that gold is there at the end of the rainbow will continue to be there forever. Provided, of course, you don't go and look. This is known as finance. On his way back home to a simple breakfast, one gentleman dropped by a guild of assassins to pay his respects to his old friend Lord Downey, during which certain affairs are only lightly touched on, and Richard glad to whoever he had gone with certainly had the worst insurance risk in the world. The people who guard the rainbow don't like those who get in the way of the sun. It seems we are indeed almost done, because we're at the epilogue. The figure in the chair didn't have long hair or an eye patch. It didn't have a beard either when one intending to have a beard. It hadn't shaved in several days. Or rather, one intending to have a beard. It groaned. "Ah, Mr. Glit," said Lord Van Nars, looking for his playing board. "You are awake, I see. I'm sorry for the manner that you were brought here, but some quite expensive people wish to see you dead, and I thought it'd be a good idea if we had this little meeting before they did. Don't know who you're talking about," said the man. My name's Randolph Stippler, and my papers to prove it. And wonderful papers they are, Mr. Glit, but enough of that. No, it's about angels I wish to speak to you now. Richard Glit, once occasionally the eggs from 3 days being carried by a gull, made themselves felt, listening and mounting puzzled to the angelic theories of Lord Van Nars. Brings me a point, Mr. Glit. The Royal Mint needs an entirely new approach. Frankly, it's more abundant, not at all we need for the 20th century of the anchovy. Yes, there's a way forward, and recent months Mr. Liverpool celebrated stance being on a second currency in this city. So light, so easy to carry, you can even send them for the mail. Fascinating, Mr. Glit, and unless people are loosening grip on you, money should be shiny. Do you know the typical one-penny stamp might change hands 12 times when affixed to an envelope and redeemed? What the man needs to see is a man who understands the dream of currency. There will be a salary, and I believe, a hat. You are offering me a job? Yes, Mr. Stippler, and to show the sincerity of my offer, let me point the door behind you. If any time you feel you wish to leave, you only need to step through and you'll never hear from me again. Some little time later, the clerk of drum knot padded in the room. Lord Van Nars, doing a report on the previous night's secret meeting of the Thieves' Guild inner circle. He sat at the trays quite nosily and came to by Van Nars. There were 10 overnights off the clocks, my lord, and I was going to have them back in operation. Indeed, yes, otherwise how in the world people go to find out what we want them to think? Any foreign mail? Usual packets, who old one's been definitely tampered with. Ah, dear Lady Morgulata, said Van Nars, smiling. I've taken liberty of removing the stamps for my nephew, my lord. Of course, said Van Nars, whipping a hand. He moved around the office and focused on a slab of little stone armies that were endlessly in combat. I see you with one, my lord. Ah, yes, I must make note of the gambit. But Mr. Glit, I notice, is not here. He sighed. You have to admire a man who really believes in freedom of choice, he said, looking at the open doorway. Sadly, he did not believe in angels. So yeah, he tried to give him a job. He tried to let him out of being killed, but apparently he just decided sudden drop's a better idea. And that's the end of the book, actually. I didn't expect we'd be so close to the end, but there it is. I guess I could have finished it up last time, but then I'd be doing it for 4 hours, and yeah, that's not gonna happen. Yep, I did it. It is done. The did is due. Now, this is a lot earlier than usual, so I'm not entirely sure what to do. Yes, praise. You know, he was knighted, actually. Thank you, Yori. Now, what am I gonna do? Long day so far. Thank you. Thank you for the hydrate. Actually, you know what I think yeah, I should do that too. Just stretching a little. Ow. uh. You know what I think I will do? I think I'll actually play a little Toho while I'm thinking about it. It's been a while since I've done that. I don't want to get too rusty.